color. Vibes. Your work is greatly Good morning, Sam. Your work is great. Good morning, Sam.
That's it, Lisa. Don't be shy. Just like we used to. Come on. Keep up. Sorry. Did I wake you up? Today's Mommy's birthday. It's also the anniversary of when we first met.
Sam, it's Hartman. Be advised that chiral density in regions predisposed to strandings has increased dramatically. No doubt the beach is to blame. BTs drawn into our world under these circumstances may be affected in unpredictable ways.
This guy don't look right.
Keep on keeping on.
you safe when I'm not around. When I'm not around. When I'm not around. When I'm not around. Look at how far we've come, forwards and backwards and forwards. My arrow is pointed straight, just like guitar. But what will I do when you're not around? When you're not around? When you're not around? When you're not around? My arrow is pointed straight, just like guitar. But what will I do when you're not around? When you're not around? When you're not around? When you're not around? Pathetic. Whatever. I'm heading back east.
Sam, do you copy? I've been looking into Clifford Unger and wanted to share my thoughts. To recap, Unger was a U.S. Special Forces operative whose retirement roughly coincided with the Death Stranding. After he left the service, he somehow became involved in the early BB experiments. However, he died before they ended. Now, while the circumstances surrounding his death are not entirely clear, I'm beginning to suspect that these battlefields of his are at least partially sustained by his enduring emotional attachments. Anger, resentment, regret. I'm pretty sure it's got something to do with the BB experiments. That much seems clear given his repeated attempts to steal Lou. Cliff seems to be driven by a compulsion to reclaim our BB, as if that will make him whole again. A compulsion so powerful that he was not only able to drag himself from the depths of hell, but bring a piece of that hell along with him. One thing's for sure, he's nothing like a BT. We need to know the whole story about his death and his connection to the BB experiments. I'll keep digging and let you know what I find, Sam.
Storing vehicle.
Keeping on. Keep on keeping on.
Beginning scan. Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Clear. Weapons detected. All weapons will be locked until departure. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges. Order of... Use of weapons is prohibited.
I'll let you know if I need anything else.
Weapons restrictions lifted. Beginning stand. Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Weapons restrictions lifted.
Sam, I'm glad you're here. Such a generous delivery. I suppose I ought to give you credit. Do you have any use for this? If so, it's yours. I'd best get back to work. Good luck out there, Sam. Good work.
Deploying autonomous delivery bot.
Use of weapons is prohibited.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
not going to believe what I found. It's about the BP experiments, their true purpose. According to official records, they were continued in secret on the order of President Strand, supposedly with the primary objective of developing BT detectors and preventing void-outs. Any advancements that could be applied to the fields of chiral communications and beach research were meant to be of purely secondary benefit. But it turns out, that's just a cover story. The truth is, Sam, BBs were originally conceived as catalysts for the operation of the chiral network. They're integrated into the infrastructure of not cities for that very reason. Every single one you've brought into the fold. It was probably Amelie herself who installed them as she moved west with the first expedition, carrying out her mother's grand plan, making sacrifice after sacrifice on the altar of progress. President Strand told the people what they wanted to hear and did what she thought had to be done. Also, America could be whole again. But I'm starting to wonder if it didn't cost her her soul. The chiral network is our greatest creation, our proudest achievement, and our guiltiest sin. I don't know how to feel about it all. Maybe if we knew more about Cliff and the BB experiments, we'd be better placed to judge. I'll be in touch.
Stay with me.
Beginning scan. Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Pilot pressure turned weapons detected. All weapons will be locked until departure. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges. weapons will be locked until departure. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges. Decontaminating suit. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Use of weapons is prohibited.
Have a pleasant journey. Safe travels. Weapons restrictions lifted.
Sarge.
Scanning Bridges ID. Verifying ID.
Good morning, Sam.
Decontaminating suit. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Everything all right, Chap? Not seeing too much damage here. No shame in taking a break from time to time.
Good work. New. Safe travels.
Hey, Sam, I see you're coming up on Lake Knot. Stay strong. We're all rooting for you to finish the job and come home safe. By the way, I've made more progress in a certain investigation. It seems that Clifford Unger willingly put his own child in the care of the scientists conducting the BB experiments. But he did so completely unaware of their true intentions. This is pure speculation, but I think when Cliff found out about their plans, he attempted to reclaim custody. And after he failed, the BB remained in the program's care. In which case, he would have every reason to bear a grudge towards the president, the woman who allowed it all to happen, don't you think? But just because President Strand is dead, doesn't mean his hate died with her. No, I think he redirected it towards Bridges, towards you and Amelie and anyone close to the director. And now that hate is driving him to set in motion the last stranding, to bring an end to the world as we know it. Why else would Cliff hold Amelie hostage on the beach? He must know that she's an EE. There's no time to lose. You have to save her and the director. Though I still don't understand how he managed to travel to her beach in the first place. There must be more to their relationship. I'll see what I can find.
Delivering cargo. Delivery complete. Displaying performance evaluation. Cargo addressed to Porter awaiting collection. Request to join UCA registered. Awaiting Cupid connection. Chiral communications established. Chiral printer is now operational. Good work.
Use of weapons is prohibited.
There we go.
Got a moment, Sam? It's about the director. So there's no way he could have made the jump to Amelie's Beach if they didn't share a strong personal connection, right? Well, I looked, and I couldn't see one. The network should have contained something, anything, but there was nothing whatsoever. His entire life prior to his tenure with Bridges has been redacted. His name, his past, everything. There's no telling who he was. Which led me to consider another possibility. What if it isn't the director and Amelie who have a connection, but the director and Clifford Unger? And what if that connection is what facilitated the director's jump to Amelie's Beach? If it's those two who have a personal history, then it might explain why Cliff is holding the director hostage as well. But even if that were the case, it doesn't answer the bigger question. How the hell did the two of them end up on Amelie's Beach?
Sam, Hartman here. There's something else I'd like you to consider. A guess, albeit an educated one, concerning Cliff's objective. Somehow, with the aid of the chiral network, our individual beaches have begun to coalesce, resulting in the formation of a single massive seam. Should this process continue, there is a risk that BTs will flood across into our world, bringing about a death stranding on a heretofore unprecedented scale. Now, Clifford Unger's battlefields and my own beach appear to be unaffected by this phenomenon, existing entirely in isolation. They do not and have never intersected with others. But what if there were another class of beach, one that exists on a higher plane, that was responsible for setting this process in motion? And what if the beach in question were none other than Amelie's? Cliff may have summoned the director, but I believe his true aim was to seize control of Amelie's beach, to exploit its power over every other beach, and trigger the last stranding. It's the only rational explanation for Cliff's actions, which is why you have to stop him.
If Hartman's right, then we're in serious trouble. Using the chiral network in Amelie's beach to trigger the last stranding? That's why Higgs went after Amelie, wasn't it? If it was Cliff who put him up to it. Yeah, it all fits. With the last stranding, he'll finally have his revenge against the world that stole his life and his child. You've got to stop him, Sam. You've got to make the jump to Amelie's beach as soon as possible. Get in and get her back. It's our only hope. If you can't, then we're all doomed.
be there for you. And your mom. No matter what. I couldn't just go off and get myself killed anymore. Couldn't leave you all alone. I couldn't. I had it all wrong. All wrong. Being a father didn't make me scared. It made me brave. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it took me so long. Don't make the same mistake. Be yourself. Be free. Captain, I need you to hand it over.
Shoot him, John. Shoot him! I gave you an order. Shoot him!
Hiya! We back at it with another review over chapter 10. The very first thing I had to do when this chapter started was head back down to switch up my colors. This chapter was already giving me a moody vibe, so I went with black for my hat and my second favorite color, which is red, but I'm loving this Mars red color. I'll have to get some crystals in that color, and for those who don't know, certain gemstones or crystals can have so many benefits for you, from healing to protection. Mars red reminds me of ruby, which is my birthstone, so I have it with me most of the time as a kind of talisman against destruction. Y'all should check it out and carry some with you. You'll notice the difference and feel the shift in your life, I promise. For my lovable Lou, I went with teal since most of this chapter will be stormy, and that color matched perfectly with the scenery. Coming from the last chapter, I wanted to jump straight over to the nearest safe house by the first prepper shelter, but I completely forgot my Lady Fragile needed time to rest. So you'll see me going up and down to the safe room a couple times before I finally set on down the dirt path. Hartman drops in here to explain that because of what happened on the beach, BTs in known areas might start acting up. I was also surprised that the BTs over in this section that was used to help us across the Tar Lake is gone now. And also, Daryl Sam makes mention of the sky, which looks similar to an aurora borealis, but it meets a void out nightmare kind of effect going on up there. I swear, Daryl Sam be reading my mind, because other than the main destination of getting all the way back to Lake Knot City, I also felt that everything was kind of meaningless at this point. But we get our long overdue song here, so y'all already know I'm gonna let it play out for a bit. Thank you, Kojima, for the smooth sounds layered into this game. That was another favorite song of mine, and I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Deadman checks in with a quick recap about our dear old dad. I figured after the first 2 battles I was in with him that he wasn't just any ordinary old BT, but I still appreciated the refresher. With so much information spreading around in the Stranding universe, it's easy for details to slip through the cracks. Since I'm in the area, I swing on by the paleontologist to pick up an order to take back with me to the geologist, because I don't care what Deadman said at the end of last chapter about there being no orders to bring and Daryl Sam is the only cargo. There's always an order to deliver when I'm around, because I'm the great deliverer. That's my creed and I'm sticking with it. You'll also see me tying my cargo down when I have my floating carrier or using a vehicle, so thanks. The tips and tricks screen really helped me out. I make my way over to the geologist to drop this order off for that good old sweet S rank, and then I'm off again heading toward the first prepper's location. Now, y'all, doing this final pizza delivery request, my first run felt straight out of a movie script. I had my ladders, I had my climbing anchors, and I went full Mission Impossible on this one. None of my zip lines were connected back then, and again, no floating carriers were available on the base version of the game, and best believe, knowing what I know now, I came back with a vengeance to lay out a full-blown zipline network across these mountains. Getting to this shelter, smooth sailing now thanks to yours truly, and also to the wonderful people filled with greatness out here in the Stranding world. Deadman reaches out again with another recap, this time digging into the BB experiments and some of the darker truths he uncovered. Things made more sense to me once I sat my face down and started reading through some of the interviews, especially the one that went into detail about building London Bridge. The president had smoke in everyone's eyes from the jump. I had my suspicions, but learning the BBs were being used to power the chiral network, that left a nasty taste in my mouth. It's nasty! So now I'm destroying America and offering up the lines of BBs while I'm at it. Thank you, Kojima. Now I feel twice as guilty finishing this game once again. Also, be careful if you choose to build a zip line up here on the highest point of the mountains, since there is a good risk of damaging yourself or any cargo you have with you. And unfortunately, I upset my dearest BB here, but ever since I got that harmonica from the musician, it's been helping calm my lovable Lou down. This haunting melody is surprisingly soothing, and if you listen closely, the song Daryl Sam plays kinda echoes the same hum as Dear Old Dad. After vibing out to the smoothest tune you'll ever hear, I finally make it down to the first prepper shelter. Now, I thought the Elder was a tough one to bring into the UCA, but this guy, he took forever and a whole day to convince. But y'all know your girl will get them hooked right on up to the network, cause who's that destroying America? Well, that's Daryl Sam. Of course, I had to switch it on up from saying we're building to destroying, since we know the real reason behind how the network operates. I picked up the next order for the dearest of all our friends, who's not of this world anymore, supposedly. I went ahead and picked up this order for the distro center to take back with me. I did take the long route back to the road, since I wasn't as thorough with my elaborate network of zip lines. And I zip, and away on back toward Mountain Knot City to grab me a set of wheels. And once again, I triple hog-tied my cargo down on this bike, because when the label reads the final pizza, you don't play around. I make it to the distribution center south of Lake Knot and dropped off this delivery, only to get hit with that measly A rating. I should have took the truck instead of the transporter bike, but it's all good. So now we riding exciting. Are we still not there yet? No, because we get interrupted by Dead Man here to give us an update on his search for more information on dear old dad. I get the sense this whole segment was laying out the path of his growing hatred for Bridges and the UCA. My dear BB's visions pretty much echoed everything Dead Man told us, so it wasn't anything new I learned here, except one thing stuck with me on how exactly did dear old dad reach Double A's beach, and what's really the connection between them. I told y'all I was gonna do the extreme move the next time I do this ramp jump here, and I'm glad this final pizza did not get damaged due to my little indulgence here. I tried once again to make it under 10 minutes, but I got here still in pretty decent time coming from that first prepper's location. And as mentioned in the letter, the door behind the terminal is already opened, but before I venture into the depths, I dropped off this last pizza for that good old S rank, and I got some new equipment from our dearest friend's arsenal, so I'll get to possibly test them out in the upcoming chapter against the final battle with dear old dad. I wasn't able to complete all the pizza delivery requests before chapter 11, my first go around, so this may give me an edge in this fight now. It took me some time, y'all, but I got the trophy here for 5-starring all the preppers I've come across, and I obtained my final star. And I put that thing on, and I got this last station hooked right on up to the network, cause who's that? Destroy America! Well, that's Dale Sam, your girl, racking up them trophies in this chapter as I got all the preppers connected to the UCA as well. I wasn't able to showcase every single one, but I'll go ahead and give them a quick shout out here for the ones I didn't already mention. So there's Luden's fan and the novelist's son are the only ones I believe I didn't bring up. So yeah, who's that? Destroy America. That's Dale Sam. So now I can finally descend into the nightmare that is our dearest friend's little hole in the wall shelter. With all these pizza boxes, I figured it was only him eating them all up. I got that sweet trophy of finding the home of Higgs, and boy is there a lot to unpack in this room right here. But I'm not on a cold case, y'all, as this isn't just a hideout, but a shrine to his own madness. Every wall, every string, every photo is stitched together like he's the only one who can see the truth. This isn't just a conspiracy board, it's a mirror. Our dearest friend is staring into his own delusion, convinced he's the puppet master pulling the strands of the world apart. The Higgs was here, scrawled like graffiti on the wall, seems to me like he wants to be remembered, not as a savior, not even as a villain, just a god in a collapsing world. And the pizza boxes seems to reduce my Daryl Sam like a mockery in the eyes of our dearest friend. Like all he ever did was deliver hot meals instead of hope. And this pharaoh mask, that's no random decoration, since Higgs sees himself as a god king ruling over the stranding universe. This screams desperation. It's where a man wrote his own prophecy in red string and a Sharpie. So this game over Sam written over here, nah, this is where the game begins. And after this revelation, I make my way over to Lake Knot, and there wasn't much background information shared by the man himself. Instead, Dead Man steps in to attempt to fill in the blanks with a report that is clinical in nature. It made me think about how often those of us from the melanated variety aren't given the chance to speak for ourselves. Our histories get reported, interpreted, and filled in by others, while our own voices remain unheard. Hartman then chimes in here too, summarizing what Dead Man and Daryl Sam already discussed. That Cliff, our dear old dad, in his own way, has been the mastermind behind so much of what's unfolded in the game. Also, our dearest dad has been pulling the strings in silence, which our dearest friend wanted oh so badly to do for himself. Before I reach Lake Knot, I see the obvious storm cloud ahead, signaling that the last battle with our dear old dad is up ahead. The other two times, Daryl Sam just gets swept away in the storm, but this time it's different. I see his determination to face our dear old dad head on. We then get into a BB vision, but this time it's through Daryl Sam's own eyes, watching our dearest dad lying there, lost in thought, like he's ruminating over the life he's led. His words hit me hard right in my soft spot of my heart, speaking what I believe many feel when they're about to bring new life into the world. And right in the middle of it all, we're handed a quiet piece of wisdom from him. Be yourself. Be free. And then we're thrown into a direct contradiction of the wisdom we just heard. Our dear old dad, once a soldier deep in the heart of the war machine, who put his life on the line so many times, and now when he's finally ready and willing to step back and settle down, he can't. Even if he wanted to, with his wife's condition and his BB being handed over to the UCA, who is then turned into another tool for the system. The silence after this event hit me different. No boss fights, no explosions, just me and that weight of what I just witnessed. With that, our Dies chapter is completed. I hope this ain't too heavy for you all, because I'm on a roll on cranking the rest of these chapters out. And what I plan to do now is drop chapters 11 through 15, even though I know 15 isn't really a chapter, but I'll just give a quick summarization and what I look forward to in the second game release. So I'll be dropping those chapters the week of Death Stranding 2 coming out, so stay on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, I plan on getting back, into Mafia 3. There's also the stocked game on Steam, along with some Resident Evil Outbreak. So thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe with the little bell jingle turned on so you all stay tuned in, my wonderful people filled with greatness. And as always, much love, much peace, and catch you on the flip side.